Alrighty, so welcome back to the part 3 of these ecology notes, and we left off with tropism, biomes, and all this other stuff, and now we're going to go into geotropism. So, what is geotropism? Well, it is the growth of a plant in response to gravity. So, positive geotrism would be the growth of a plant towards the center of the earth, down with gravity. An example of this can be roots growing down. We see trees, roots going into the ground, not up, out. And negative geotropism. This is the growth of a plant away from the center of the earth, opposite from the pull of gravity. This is the stem. So you can find this in any plant, both positive geotropism and negative geotropism, where negative, the plant itself grows up while the roots grow down. So why is this important? Why the hell do we need to know this? So we know that the roots are pulled down to anchor a plant. Roots also get the water needed and minerals needed so if they stay in the soil. So therefore, they need to be down under the ground, not above. Phototropism. So this is the growth response of a plant in response to the light direction, that being called phototropism. Remember, photo means light. So we have some idea that it has to do with light, the growth response of a plant in response to light direction. Thigmotropism. Thigmotropism, remember thigmo means touch, and thigmotropism is the growth of a plant in response to touch/contact. So we can think of vines or English ivy, how it's taking over the South. We can think of that as thigmotropism. We know that English ivy likes to wrap around trees and then eventually kills them, which is not really good, but it's a perfect example of thigmotropism. Or tendrils on a sweet plant. Basically any sort of plant that grows along something. So now we're going to talk about some global environmental issues, and what's the purpose of this? This is to encompass the whole life of Alexa, stop on Earth, and the complex interactions that link the living world with the physical world. In a general sense, this covers everything contained within the air, land, and water. Sudden dramatic natural changes in the environment have occurred and continue to occur, and will continue to occur. And these have the potential to upset the entire balance of the Earth's ecosystem. What is the environment? The environment encompasses the whole life on Earth and the complex interactions that link the living world with the physical world. In a general sense, it covers everything containing the air, land, and water. Environmental change. Sudden and dramatic natural changes to the environment have occurred in the distant past, but only relatively recently has one species had the potential to upset the whole balance of Earth's ecosystem. So, the global population has risen dramatically during the last century, and the rise of industry and its rapid expansion has been a major source of pollution, and this has caused changes in the balance of our environment. So just to name a few, we have global warming, ozone layer depletion, acid rain, deforestation, loss of biodiversity, water pollution, desertification, waste disposal, Keystone XL, and invasive/exotic species. Global warming. Greenhouse gases help to maintain the Earth's temperature at a level suitable to support life. Meanwhile, human activities are increasing the amount of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, which causes more heat to be trapped. Predicted effects of global warming include higher sea levels as the ice will melt, higher temperatures, variable climatic conditions, and these changes are expected to cause significant impact on our agriculture and ecosystems. Ozone layer depletion. So the ozone layer is a layer in the atmosphere that protects the Earth from harmful UV ultraviolet light. The use of chlorofluorocarbons, or CFCs, and other ozone depleting substances as refrigerants, solvents, and insulation is destroying the ozone layer. A hole is observed over the Antarctic every autumn. Depleted ozone levels cause the following impacts: increased penetration of UV light to Earth, increased risks of skin cancer and eye diseases, damage to agricultural crops, disruption to marine food chains, and I'm sure it has a number of other effects that we're just not aware of at the moment. Acid rain. This is burning of fossil fuels leads to the atmospheric emission of NOx and SO2. These gases react with water and oxygen to make a sulfuric and nitric acid. Sunlight increases the rate of these reactions. Rain, snow, and fog can be polluted with these acidic compounds, which is then deposited at the Earth's surface. This can damage forests and soil, cause acidification of lakes and other water bodies, disturb wildlife, cause the decay of buildings and other structures, and just have a massive impact on human health as a whole. So deforestation. The deforestation of tropical rainforests is a major global problem, as each year millions of acres are lost. Deforestation rates in some countries continue to increase despite worldwide pressures. Rainforests are destroyed for wood products and to make way for agricultural activities, mining, and dams. Deforestation impacts our life, or the Earth, in the sense that there's the loss of livelihood for local inhabitants, variable environmental conditions, loss of biodiversity and disturbance to ecosystems, and loss of carbon sink. Loss of biodiversity. Biodiversity has three key components. You have genetic diversity, species diversity, and ecological diversity. Approximately 2.1 million species are known to exist, but up to 50 million are still to be discovered. Biodiversity is important for food, drugs, maintaining ecological stability, aesthetic, and cultural benefits. Natural causes and human activity can threaten biodiversity. The loss of biodiversity means ecosystems are destabilized, vital resources are lost, and genetic variation is reduced. Water pollution. The change in water quality that impacts living organisms has the following impacts. It may infect agents such as typhoid and cholera, which are the agents, these are the infectious agents. Types and effects of water pollution. Nutrients and eutrophication, toxic minerals through mining, organic chemicals, sediments can disrupt aquatic ecosystems. So, what is water quality? This is the condition of water for a purpose. This might be drinking or agricultural, and then according to certain characteristics, this might mean physical, chemical, or biological. What affects water quality is human in the sense of industry, agriculture, and hygiene, and then climate, weather, and other life forms. Testing water quality, physical parameters. This can mean testing it using temperature, suspended solids, turbidity, odor, taste, and flow in the case of rivers. How to test physical parameters. You need a digital thermometer to test temperature, odor, which should be done in 5 minutes of a sample collection. Taste, do this at your own risk, and it is often done at treatment plants, but is not encouraged. case there's anything toxic in the water. Total suspended solid. Water is filtered, then residue is dried and weighed, then compared to the original sample. Then turbidity, which is measured by the amount of light that is scattered by the sample. Now, chemical parameters. This might mean pH, nutrients, heavy metals, pesticides, herbicides, industrial waste, alkalinity, oxygen, and pharmaceuticals. Potential hydrogen, or pH, is tested using reagents or collaborated electronic meters. The closest to the redder it is, the more acidic. The closer to purple it is, the more basic it is. It's on a scale of 0 to 14. Closer to 0, it's more acidic. Closer to 14, it is more basic. Our water is supposed to be 7, which is the number that is neutral. Nutrients tested for a spectrophotometer. We have nitrates and then phosphates, which are samples of water that are taken back to a lab or mobile lab where specific volumes of the sample reacts with a measured amount of reagent, and the change between the original sample's light scattering capacity and the reagent mix sample gives the concentration of nutrients. Perfect. Bioindicators. These are large insects and animals that live in the water body, and if they are present, then the water must be of a certain quality. So, I mean, if the water is totally acidic, there's not going to be a bunch of organisms living in it because they would all die. Bacterial life, which are health concerns. We can use E. coli, bacteria, and a number of other resources. Bacterial life. Sample is taken, then it is kept cool and away from exterior contamination. It's brought back to the lab ASAP. The sample is shaken to allow for minimum settling. Sample is added to agar plate, pour or scrape, and the plate is incubated for 24 to 48 hours, and we count the colonies of bacteria. So, urban contribution. This may be driving and vehicle maintenance, gardening, waste disposal, hygiene, and construction sites. And then eutrophication and algal blooms. An excessive amount of nutrients can cause a type of pollution called eutrophication. Eutrophication stimulates an extensive growth of algae that depletes the water of oxygen, and when the algae die, they are eaten by bacteria. Certification. Removing ground cover and degrading fertile land initiates desertification. Water washes away nutrients and the land becomes inhospitable. The process is accelerated by expanding populations and the need to overuse fragile areas of land. Waste disposal. Waste disposal methods include open dumping and landfill, ocean dumping, exporting waste to energy plants. Minimize the waste streams. These are the 3 R's: reduce, reuse, recycle. Composting and waste to energy. Hazardous waste disposal. This needs to be safely handled and disposed of to minimize threats to the environment and human health. The Keystone Pipeline is a prime example that we need oil, but in order to get some in Alaska, it must run through Western Canadian Sedimentary Basin in Alberta to refineries in Illinois and Texas, and also to oil tank farms in an oil pipeline distribution center in Oklahoma. So the big deal is we need this oil, but is it worth destroying the environment for it? Invasive and exotic species. These are typically found when they either make their way via some mode of transport or someone who decides to have them as a pet who shouldn't decide to have them as a pet. lets them go eventually, and they take over the ecosystem. This can be an example of this are zebra mussels, lionfish, or the Burmese python. What is the difference, though, between exotic and invasive species? Exotic species could be either wild or captive, while they would become invasive in the wild. Exotic species may or may not have new natural competitors and enemies, whereas invasive species do not have any danger of such barriers. So invasive means that they're killing the ecosystem, where exotic, they're just like not supposed to be there. And so yeah, that is the part 3